Hello everyone. I hope you're ready for another week's work. Sure you're very excited. Today we are looking at decimals again. Now last week you did a little bit of work on the place value of decimals. And if you remember, you were looking at hundreds, tens and units, which are our normal whole numbers. And then you were looking at tenths and hundredths, and even into thousandths we will go at some point as well. Today we're going to build on that and we're looking at adding and subtracting decimals. So today our Walt is we are learning to add and subtract decimals, and that just means numbers that include a decimal point. Now the good news is it's not very difficult. If you can add and subtract, which I know you all can, then this is going to be no problem to you, as long as you remember a couple of key points, which I'm going to show you. So let's look at a pretty straightforward sum to begin with. You can see here 27.6, there's our decimal point, add 7.9. So both of these numbers have a decimal point, so we're adding decimals. Now, the key, let's get this, the key, the most important thing is how you write this down. If you write it down correctly, no problem. I want to first of all show you how not to do it. Okay, so here are a couple of mistakes that I see a lot. Let's take this one first of all. Numbers are correct, but we've got a problem. Remember place value? This is 7 units. Now we know that this is tens, this is units, and this is tenths. But I have got the units here in the tens column. The tenths is under the decimal point, and the decimal point is under the units column. It's all over the place. Let's look at this one as well. Again, similar mistakes. Here we've got tens, units, and tenths. But I've got the units in the tens, I've got the decimal point, don't know where it is. We've got the 9/10ths in the units. So if I try to add those, it's going to be wrong. No matter what I do, that is going to be wrong. Now, the two problems here. First of all, this one, they're in the wrong column. We've got the place values mixed up. This is units, so it should be here. This is tenths, so it should be here. Over here, the problem is we've just squashed this number up. Do not squash your numbers up today. Space them out. Let's look at how it should have been written. Now, there you go. Tens, units, tenths. We can see the tenths in a nice straight line. Units, there's only one 10. But the key thing is, and I want you to remember this, the decimal points line up, okay, in a straight line. The decimals line up. Now, if you can line the decimals up, you will never really have a problem. So remember your place value and keep your decimals in a straight line, and then you can do the sum, and it's just normal adding. 6 and 9 is 15. 7 and 1 is 8. Add 7 is also 15, and 2 and 1 makes 3. One final thing, remember to put your decimal point into your answer, because if you don't, it'll be wrong. Okay? Very important to put your decimal point. But as you can see, once it's written down correctly, not a problem. Let's look at subtraction, and it's really the same principle. Of course, you've got to take away this time, but the same principle applies. We need to write it down correctly. Now be aware of something. Taking away, subtracting, always remember the largest number must go on the top line. So again, here's the way it should be. Place values being remembered here. We've got our decimals in a nice straight line. Okay, and I've put a couple of reminders here. Biggest number always goes in the top row. Don't ever forget that. and remember to exchange where necessary. Sometimes you won't have to exchange, but when you do, make sure you do. And this is an exchanging one, so let's look at it. So we always start with the smallest value digit or column, and this is the tenths. We start in the top line and we say 6, take away 8. Now think about it. If I have 6, can I take away 8? No, I can't. It's not possible. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to exchange. I go to the next biggest column, which is the units. I'm going to take 1 unit. So I'm going to take 1 away, leaving me 3. Now I've got 1 unit, and I'm going to take the unit and put it in the tenths column. Now a unit can't go into the tenths column unless I change it into tenths. A unit is 1 whole. So how many tenths in 1 whole? Can you think of that? How many tenths in 1 whole? 10 tenths, isn't that right? So we're actually taking 1 unit and we're changing into 10 tenths. 10 tenths added to the 6 we've already got. 10 add 6 is 16. And now we can do the sum. 16 take away 8. You can also ask yourself, 8 add what makes 16? And the answer is 8. 3 take away 9. If I've got 3, can I take 9? No, I can't. So again, I exchange. I go to the tens, I take 1 10, which actually leaves nothing, 0 in the tens column. That 10 can't go into the units unless I change it into units. So if I've got 1 10, how many units is that? It's 10 units. 10 units plus the 3 that are already there. 10 add 3, that makes 13. So now we can do the sum. 13 take away 9 is 4, and we have nothing here. What have I forgotten? I've forgotten the decimal point. So don't forget your decimal point. All right? Now, sometimes you will get a sum where you have 1 number after the decimal point and then the other number will have 2. What do we do? Well, when you write it down, you will see something like this. So we've got the tens, the units, the tenths, and this time we've got hundredths. Now, you'll notice there is a blank space here. What do we do? Because I can't actually do that sum. I can't remember, was that adding or subtracting? It was adding, okay. So I need to put my adding sign in. I can't actually do this sum if I don't know what I'm adding. And what I will say is this: if we are talking about digits after the decimal point, at the end, this is important, only at the end of a number and only if it's after the decimal point, we can add a 0. I couldn't add a 0 here because it would change the number. This doesn't make a number any bigger or any smaller, but it does allow us to complete the sum. So 5 add 0 is 5. 6 add 7 is 13. 5 add 9 is 14. Add 1 is 15. 7 add 1 is 8. What else do I have to do at the end? Decimal point. And there's my answer. So remember, if you need to, you can add a 0, but only at the end of the number and only if there's a decimal point there. One final sum. Find the difference between 42 and 13.76. This time you will notice we have a whole number and it doesn't have a decimal point, but the other number does. And we've also got this language here, find the difference. What does find the difference mean? Subtract, okay, or take away. Find the difference means subtract, so we're going to take away here. And when we write it down, we've got, remember this number has no decimals, so this is a 10 and a unit, 10 and a unit, decimal point. I hope you can remember what these are. These are tenths, these are hundredths. If you want to, you can write above each column if it helps you to remember. We have got to fill this in, but we've got to do one other thing. We need to put a decimal point in here. And remember I said after the decimal point, we can add zeros. And I can put 1 here, and I can put 1 here. And then I can do the sum. What about this? This is a more difficult sum. 0 take away 6. Well, if I've got 0, I can't take anything away. So I've got to exchange. Well, there's nothing in the tenths, so I've got to go to the units. I take 1 unit away, leaving me with 1. I need to take that unit and give some to the tenths and some to the hundredths. So the first thing is I'm going to change it into tenths. 1 unit is how many tenths? Think about that. 1 unit is how many tenths? 10 tenths. Isn't that right? 10 tenths makes 1 whole, or 1 unit. Now I can't give all 10 away because then I'll have nothing left for the hundredths. So I'm going to give 9 of those tenths away to the tenths column. And I add 9 to the 0. Well, 9 and 0 is just simply 9. Okay? And I have 1 tenth left. I now need to change that tenth into hundredths. How many tenths makes a hundredth? And the answer again is 10. 10 add 0 is 10. And then I can do the taking away. 10, take away 6, well that's 4. 9, take away 7 is 2. 1, take away 3, don't be tempted to say 2. Remember, you've got 1, you can't take 3 away. We go to the tens and we do our exchanging. We take 1 10 away from the 4, take 1 from the 4, leaves us with 3. We carry the 10 into the units, so we've got to change the 10 into units. If we have 110, how many units have we got? We've got 10. 10 units makes 110. So 10 added to the 1 that's already there makes 11. 11 take away 3 is 8. 3 take away 1 is 2. What do I need to add at the end? Decimal point. Sum done. Now, let me recap just before you work. A few key points. Space out your digits. I can't stress this enough today. If you look at any of the sums that I have done, there's a nice space between my digits. Do not squash your work up. That will make it very difficult for you, and it will make it much more likely that you will make a mistake. Trust me on this. Space your digits out. 1 digit per square. Okay? So that's the first thing to remember. Secondly, remember your place value. Ensure that the digits are in the correct column. So if you've got tens, make sure that's not in the units column, and so on. Keep your decimals in a nice straight line. You can't really go wrong if you do that. Keep them in a nice straight line. And remember to include a decimal point in your answer. And that's it. And now you can have fun by doing your work. Enjoy it.